She didn't even know what was happening until his lips were already on hers. The billionaire every woman in New York wanted, kissing the housekeeper no one even noticed. Cameras flashed, gasps filled the room, and in that single moment, her life, and his, changed forever. Because what looked like love was actually revenge. He kissed her to destroy an arranged marriage, to humiliate the woman he was supposed to marry. But what he didn't expect was to fall for the woman he used. Before we dive in, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. I love seeing how far this story travels, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Because the next twist in this story might just change how you see love and loyalty forever. Now, let's start with the night the lie began. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. Community Plus comment flood. Subscribe is framed as curiosity protection, not a demand. She didn't plan to be there that night. She was supposed to stay invisible, polishing the marble floors before the guests arrived. But one broken champagne glass changed everything. The moment she bent down to clean it, she heard someone call her name, a voice that carried the weight of command. Grayson Pierce, the billionaire heir of Pierce Global. He was tall, sharp-featured, and looked like someone who never made a mistake. Except tonight, he was about to make one. Lila Moreno froze, the cloth trembling in her hand. Before she could answer, he stepped closer, eyes dark with something that wasn't anger. It was strategy. "When I walk past you, don't move," he whispered. "Just stay still." She didn't understand what he meant until he did it, until his hand gripped her wrist, pulled her up, and in front of 200 guests, he kissed her. The cameras exploded, flash after flash. Her body stiffened as the entire room gasped. Someone screamed her name, she didn't know who. She tasted champagne and salt, heard glass shatter, and in the middle of it all, felt her world collapse in silence. When he pulled away, she saw what she wasn't supposed to see, his faint smirk. Not love, not affection, calculation. She slapped him. The sound echoed through the ballroom. Guests froze, their faces a mix of shock and delight. The orchestra had stopped playing. Reporters whispered. Phones lifted, recording every second. "Mr. Pierce," one of them shouted. "Who is she?" Grayson didn't answer. He straightened his tie, still looking at Lila. "Someone real," he said, and walked away, leaving her standing in the center of the chaos, shaking. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. The winter wind hit her as she ran down the steps of the glass hotel, her breath fogging in the cold. People called her name. Journalists pushed microphones toward her. "Miss Moreno, are you his mistress? Are you being paid?" She didn't answer. She just kept running until the noise faded behind her. By midnight, her face was everywhere. Social media, tabloids, news channels. The billionaire's forbidden kiss. Pierce scandal at gala. Maid or mistress? Her phone buzzed nonstop. Her mother called from the hospital, terrified. Her brother texted, "What did you do, Lila?" She wanted to disappear. But in the penthouse office above Manhattan, Grayson watched the same footage in silence. The flicker of light reflected on his glass of whiskey as Naomi Chen, his PR chief, said, "That kiss just cost you the Whitaker deal." He didn't blink. "Good," he said softly. Naomi stared. "Good? Grayson, that merger was worth $1 billion. He turned off the TV. "It was an arranged marriage, Naomi, a cage with a contract. I just picked the lock." Down below, in her apartment in Queens, Lila stared at the same video on her cracked phone screen. Her name was trending. Her job was gone. Her rent was due in 4 days. And she had no idea why the man who ruined her life had done it. The next morning, Manhattan woke up to chaos. Every news station, every gossip blog, every trending feed had the same photo, the billionaire's kiss that stopped the city. Lila couldn't step outside. Reporters were parked outside her building like vultures, cameras flashing each time her curtain moved. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing, half the numbers unknown, the other half from her job telling her not to bother coming in. Her mother called again, coughing through the line. "Lila, what did you do? They're saying you're his—" Lila's voice cracked. "I didn't do anything, Mama. He did." Across the city, Grayson Pierce walked into Pierce Tower, his face expressionless behind dark sunglasses. Every employee turned to look. Whispers trailed behind him like smoke. Naomi Chen was already waiting inside his office, holding a stack of headlines. "You've started a war," she said flatly. He took off his glasses, his jaw tight. "Good." "Good?" she snapped. "You humiliated the Whitakers on live television. Their lawyers are already calling. Do you understand what this means for your board, your investors?" He cut her off. "I understand exactly. Let them come." She studied him for a moment, then sighed. "You planned this, didn't you? You kissed that girl to blow up the deal." Grayson didn't answer. He just poured himself a drink, staring out over the skyline. It was never going to be a marriage, just business. And I'm done marrying contracts. Back in Queens, Lila's door rattled under the knocks of strangers shouting questions. "Were you his lover? Did he pay you to kiss him? Are you pregnant?" Her hands trembled as she pressed her back to the door. Then her phone buzzed, a number she didn't recognize. "Miss Moreno," a low voice said. "Mr. Pierce would like to see you, tonight." She froze. "He's the reason I lost everything. Tell him no." But the voice didn't wait for her answer. The line went dead. Hours later, she was standing outside his penthouse, every instinct screaming at her to leave. When the doors opened, the scent of leather and expensive silence hit her. He was there, waiting by the window, the skyline burning gold behind him. "You wanted to see me?" Her voice was tight, defensive. He turned, calm as ever. "I owe you an explanation." She laughed bitterly. "An explanation? You humiliated me in front of the world." He stepped closer, his tone even. "I needed to end something, and you were the only one who could make it believable." "You used me?" "Yes." Her palm itched to slap him again. "You think your money can fix this?" He handed her an envelope. Inside, a check big enough to erase every debt she had. She stared at it, disgusted. "You think I can be bought?" "No," he said quietly. "I think you're the only person who can help me finish what I started." She looked up sharply. "And what exactly did you start, Mr. Pierce?" He met her eyes. "A war against the people who own my name." A cold shiver ran through her spine. The city lights glinted against the window, and for the first time she realized this man wasn't reckless. He was dangerous. The contract lay between them on a table of glass and silence. 12 pages of rules, boundaries, and lies disguised as conditions. Lila didn't touch it. "You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend?" she said slowly, as if the words might sting less if spoken aloud. Grayson didn't flinch. "For the media, for the board, until the storm passes." Her jaw tightened. "And when it doesn't?" "Then you'll have enough money to disappear," he said, sliding a pen across the table. Her eyes flicked to the figure written on the check he'd already given her. It was enough to clear her mother's hospital bills, pay her brother's tuition, and maybe buy back her peace. But something about it felt wrong, too easy, too clean. "I don't trust you," she whispered. He looked at her then, really looked at her. "Good. That's the only reason you'll survive me." The pen trembled in her hand as she signed. Each stroke felt like a chain snapping shut around her wrist. When she finally looked up, he was watching her with unreadable calm. "Welcome to the Pierce household, Miss Moreno." She wanted to throw the pen at him. Instead, she walked out with her head high, the papers clutched like a curse. That night, the elevator doors opened to a world she didn't belong in. A penthouse that floated above the city, marble floors reflecting the glow of Manhattan. She moved carefully, her sneakers too loud against the silence. Patrick Doyle, the elderly house manager, greeted her with a polite smile that didn't reach his eyes. Mr. Pierce has arranged the guest suite. You'll find your wardrobe has already been selected." "My wardrobe?" she asked, confused. "Yes, ma'am. Appearances must be convincing." As he turned away, he added quietly, "Be careful, Miss Moreno. This house remembers everything." She couldn't sleep that night. The hum of the city below sounded like whispers through the walls. When she stepped out into the hallway, she saw a faint light under Grayson's study door. Curiosity pulled her closer. Inside, he was on the phone, his voice low but sharp. "I told you, Sloane, this deal is over. You can tell your father I don't bend to blackmail." Lila froze, her pulse quickening. The word blackmail cut through the air like glass. He ended the call and turned. "You like eavesdropping, Miss Moreno?" She stepped back. "No, I couldn't sleep." His gaze held hers for a long moment. Then, softer, he said, "Neither can I." The silence stretched, heavy with something she didn't want to name. He turned away first. "Get some rest," he said quietly. "Tomorrow we start pretending." She went back to her room, but sleep never came. Instead, she replayed the kiss, the cameras, and the way his voice had broken just slightly when he said pretending. Morning sunlight poured into the penthouse like gold that didn't belong to her. The city looked peaceful from above, but inside that glass cage, every sound felt amplified. The clink of silverware, the echo of her footsteps, the quiet hum of Grayson Pierce's world. Lila adjusted the collar of the designer dress laid out for her. It still smelled like the boutique, like something borrowed from someone else's life. When she stepped into the dining room, Grayson was already there, reading a newspaper headline that screamed his name. "Pierce loves Scandal Rocks New York." He didn't look up. "Smile when you walk past the windows," he said. "The photographers are still camping outside." She frowned. "You mean there are people watching us right now?" He folded the paper. "There are always people watching." Breakfast was quiet, too quiet. Every fork scrape sounded like a threat. When she finally spoke, her voice was small but steady. "You planned that kiss for weeks, didn't you?" He set down his cup. "Months. Why me?" "Because you were invisible, and the world loves seeing the invisible burn bright." Her chest tightened. She wanted to hate him, but there was something in his tone, not cruelty, not arrogance, just exhaustion, like a man tired of fighting ghosts he couldn't name. Later that afternoon, Naomi Chen arrived. Her heels echoed across the marble floor as she whispered something to Grayson. They disappeared into his study and shut the door. Lila turned to Patrick, who was polishing the silver tray. "Who is she?" He hesitated. "Someone who keeps his reputation alive, someone who buries what the rest of us can't." When they left, curiosity dragged Lila to the study. The door was ajar. She saw stacks of folders on the desk, names she didn't recognize, except one. Her breath caught. Moreno. Her father's name. The letters blurred as she flipped the page. Incident 2008. Pierce Global Internal Review. Employee termination due to whistleblowing. Her father had worked here. He'd been fired for speaking up. The company Grayson now owned had destroyed her family. She closed the file just as his voice came from behind her. "Lose something?" Her heart nearly stopped. He was standing in the doorway, hands in his pockets, face unreadable. "I was looking for a pen," she said quickly. "People who look for pens don't usually read classified documents." She met his gaze. "People who ruin lives don't usually offer contracts." For a moment, neither moved. Then he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You think I'm my father, don't you?" She didn't answer. He smiled faintly. "Maybe I am, maybe worse." When he turned away, she exhaled, realizing her hands were shaking. She wasn't sure if it was fear or something far more dangerous. That night she lay awake, replaying every word. The wind outside howled against the glass. Somewhere in the penthouse, she heard a door close softly, followed by footsteps. His, steady, deliberate. He was walking toward her room. Her breath caught. The steps stopped outside her door. Silence. Then a whisper through the wood. "You're not safe here, Lila." And then he was gone. By dawn, the house didn't feel like a home. It felt like a waiting room before a storm. Lila barely slept. The whisper from the hallway replayed over and over. "You're not safe here." She tried to convince herself she'd imagined it. But when she opened her door, a fresh envelope lay on the floor. No name, no seal, just one typed line. "They're watching you, too." Her heart pounded. She looked down the hallway, but it was empty. Polished marble, sunlight creeping in through the tall windows. Somewhere below, cameras clicked from the street. At breakfast, Grayson sat in the same chair, unbothered, scrolling through messages on his phone. "You look pale," he said without looking up. She forced a smile. "Didn't sleep much?" He glanced up then, studying her expression. "Dreams?" "Nightmares," she said. His mouth twitched, almost a smirk. "Then we have that in common." He slid a sleek folder across the table. Inside were photos, him and her at different events, smiling, walking together, her hand tucked into his arm. None of those moments had happened yet. "What is this?" she asked. "Next week's schedule," he said. "We're attending the Whitaker auction. You'll wear what I tell you, stand where I tell you, and when I say smile, you'll smile." Her stomach turned. "You think you can choreograph me like a prop?" His eyes hardened. "You signed the contract. You knew what this was." But she didn't. Not really. She thought it was pretend. But now she saw it. This was control. The kind that looked polite from far away and suffocating up close. Later that evening, Patrick found her in the service hallway, pacing. "Don't look at me like that, Patrick," she muttered. "I know what you're thinking." He sighed, folding a towel with care. "What I think doesn't matter, Miss Moreno, but I've seen this before. The people in this house, they never hurt you at first. They make you trust them. Then they decide what you're worth." Lila swallowed hard. "What do you mean?" He looked at her sadly. "You'll see soon enough." That night, she stood before the mirror in the gown Naomi had sent. Midnight blue silk that clung like a secret. She hated how beautiful it looked on her. When Grayson appeared at the top of the stairs, dressed in black, even the air seemed to pause. He offered his arm, and though every instinct told her to refuse, she placed her hand on it. The flash of cameras exploded below as they stepped into the waiting limousine. The charity auction in the Hamptons was a stage built for money and deceit. The chandeliers sparkled too brightly, the champagne flowed too easily, and every guest whispered behind perfect smiles. As they entered, Grayson leaned close. "Whatever happens tonight, don't react." She wanted to ask to what, but then she saw her, Sloane Whitaker, radiant and composed, standing at the top of the marble steps, eyes locked on them. Sloane's smile was the kind that could cut glass. "Grayson," she said sweetly, "you brought your new project." Lila's face burned. Grayson squeezed her hand just enough to warn her not to speak. Throughout the evening, Lila felt Sloane's gaze follow her, sharp, assessing. When a photographer asked for a picture, Sloane slid beside them, resting a hand on Grayson's arm. "For old times," she whispered. The photo flash burned. The air turned heavy. And in that moment, Lila knew the fake arrangement wasn't fooling anyone. It was starting a war. As they left, Sloane's voice followed them. "Enjoy your moment, darling. You'll need it when the truth comes out." Back in the car, Lila finally broke the silence. What truth was she talking about? Grayson stared out the window. "She lies for sport." Then why did she look so sure? He didn't answer. She turned to him, frustration rising. "You said I wasn't safe. Was this what you meant?" He met her eyes, voice low. "No. What I meant is that danger doesn't always wear a mask." The car sped down the dark road, headlights slicing through fog. She looked at him, the man who had kissed her for a lie, and for the first time wondered what he was truly fighting, his enemies or himself. The morning after the auction, the world looked different, quieter, heavier, as if the city itself was holding its breath. Lila opened her phone and froze. Every social media feed, every gossip page, every trending video had her face on it again. But this time, it wasn't about the kiss. It was about the video. Grainy, shaky footage, her and Grayson standing too close in the penthouse, laughing, her hand brushing his arm. Then the kiss. But the timestamp was wrong. It wasn't from the night of the gala. It was from days before. The headline read, "Fake Love Story. Housekeeper involved in billionaire's publicity stunt." Her stomach turned. No, this can't be real. The comments burned her eyes. She's been lying the whole time. They planned it together. She's smarter than she looks. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. "You think you can play people like him and get away with it?" the voice hissed. Then it hung up. Her chest tightened. Panic clawed at her ribs. She threw on a coat and stormed to Grayson's office. The guards tried to stop her, but one look at her face and they didn't dare. He was behind his desk, calm as ever, the TV behind him already playing the same footage. "You knew?" she demanded. He didn't look up. "I saw it this morning." "You're not denying it?" He exhaled slowly. "Because I don't need to." She slammed her hands on the desk. "Everyone thinks I was in on it. They're destroying my name." His voice was low. "You think they care about the truth? The internet doesn't want truth. It wants blood." She took a shaky step back. "So this was part of your plan? Use me, ruin me, then watch me drown while you sip your whiskey?" Finally, he looked at her. Really looked. His eyes were tired, regretful, but there was still that cold edge that never melted. "I didn't leak it, Lila." "Then who did?" He hesitated. "Someone who wants both of us gone." Her laugh was hollow. "And you expect me to believe you?" "No," he said softly. "I expect you to survive this." She turned and left, tears burning her throat. But before the elevator doors closed, Naomi Chen appeared. "Lila," she said sharply, "don't walk away. You don't know what's coming." Lila froze. "What do you mean?" Naomi lowered her voice. "That video didn't come from the media. It came from inside this company, someone close to him." "Who?" Naomi's eyes flicked toward Grayson's office. "He won't say it, but I will. His best friend, Carter Blake." The doors shut. Lila's heart pounded. Carter, the charming man who smiled too easily, who seemed to know everything before anyone else. Hours later, she stood in her apartment, packing what little she had left. The city outside felt colder, louder. Every headline screamed her name. Every channel played the same video. Then her phone buzzed again, this time a message. "Don't run. That's what they want." No name, no number, just those words. She looked out the window at the skyline. Somewhere out there, Grayson was fighting a battle he started, and somehow she was caught in the crossfire. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "Maybe I'm not the one who's been used. Maybe I'm the one who's about to find out why." Rain hit the windows like 1,000 small secrets. The city outside blurred into streaks of silver, and Lila sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by papers she didn't remember saving. Old bills, job contracts, faded photographs, and one envelope that had no return address. She didn't recognize the handwriting, but the moment she opened it, her breath caught. Inside was a photocopy of an old employment ID, Carlos Moreno, Pierce Global Holdings. Her father. Below it, a single sentence typed on crisp white paper. He tried to tell the truth. They buried him instead. Lila's hands trembled. She had been 7 when her father lost his job. 2 years later he was dead. A car accident, they said. But the pieces never fit. The night before it happened, he'd told her mother he'd found something that could ruin them all. She stuffed the papers into her bag and headed straight to Pierce Tower. The guards hesitated when she said her name, but she pushed past them anyway. Naomi Chen caught her in the elevator. "What are you doing here?" Naomi hissed. "I need to talk to him," Lila said. "Now." Naomi studied her for a moment, then hit the button for the top floor. "Be careful what you ask for." When the doors opened, Grayson was on the phone arguing in a low, tight voice. "I don't care what the board says, Carter. I won't grovel to the Whitakers, not after what they did." He turned when he saw her, tension flickering in his jaw. "You shouldn't be here." "I found something," she said, dropping the envelope on his desk. "My father worked for your company, for your family." He froze. "That's impossible." "Is it?" she shot back. "Because this says otherwise." He tried to expose something, and then he was gone. He stared at the papers, the muscles in his face tightening. "Where did you get this?" "It was sent to me," she said. "No name, just that line, that you buried him." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "My father ran this company back then, not me." "And you expect me to believe that makes you innocent?" she snapped. His gaze softened for the first time. "I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to let me prove it." He opened a locked drawer and pulled out a dusty file labeled Moreno Case, 2008. Inside were photos, internal memos, and one handwritten note from his late father. "Shut this down before it spreads. One leak could destroy the family." Her throat went dry. He covered it up. Grayson nodded slowly. "And they blamed your father." She staggered back, tears burning behind her eyes. "He died because of this," she whispered. He looked away. "He died because of mine." Silence filled the room, heavy, raw, unforgiving. Then his phone buzzed. A message flashed across the screen, and his expression changed. "What is it?" she asked. He showed her the message. It was from Carter. "You're not the only Pierce with secrets. Maybe check who sent her those files." Her blood ran cold. "What does he mean?" He looked at her sharply. "Someone inside this company wants us both destroyed, and they're not done yet." For the first time, Lila saw something human in his eyes. Fear, not for himself, but for her. Outside, thunder rolled over the city. In that moment she understood. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about survival. The boardroom at Pierce Global was a battlefield disguised in suits and smiles. 12 men and women sat around the long glass table, their whispers slicing through the air like blades. On the screens behind them, the company's stock numbers bled red. Grayson stood at the head of the table, motionless, while Naomi presented the damage. "We've lost 3 major investors in 24 hours. Carter's been pushing emergency reforms through the board. If this continues, you'll be voted out as CEO by the end of the week." Grayson said nothing. His reflection in the glass wall looked like a ghost. Carter Blake, his oldest friend, his supposed ally, leaned back in his chair, feigning sympathy. "You've done incredible things for this company, Grayson, but maybe it's time to let others lead. You've lost focus." Grayson's voice was quiet but sharp. "You mean I stopped selling my soul?" Carter smirked. "Call it what you want. The world calls it business." Naomi's phone buzzed. She read the message, her face paling. "It's trending again," she whispered. "The video, the one with Lila." Grayson turned. "What now?" "They've leaked a second clip." On the screen, new footage played. Lila handing him the envelope about her father. A private moment, now twisted with captions and rumors. Pierce family mistress blackmailing the CEO. The room erupted in murmurs. Carter stood. "This is exactly what I meant. You've become reckless, emotional, a liability." Grayson's composure cracked. He slammed his fist on the table. "You leaked it, didn't you?" Carter didn't even flinch. "Be careful what you accuse me of, old friend. You have no proof." The meeting dissolved into noise, but Grayson wasn't listening. He could feel the walls closing in. The empire he'd built from nothing now sinking under the weight of secrets he hadn't created, but was forced to carry. He left without another word. Naomi caught up to him in the hallway. "You can't keep this up," she said softly. "You look like a man waiting to drown." He stared at the elevator doors. Maybe drowning is the only honest thing left to do. That night, he didn't go home. He drove through the city in silence, past the tower that bore his name, past the gala hall where everything began, until the lights blurred into one long streak of regret. He ended up at the pier, the same one his father used to take him to before the world got complicated. The wind was cold, the water black. He pulled out his phone and found Lila's number. He typed a message, then deleted it. Typed again, deleted. Finally, he called. She answered on the second ring, her voice wary. "What do you want?" He hesitated. "To explain." "You've done enough explaining," she said bitterly. "Lila, listen, someone inside my company is—" "Your company destroyed my father," she cut in. "Now it's destroying me. Maybe that's justice." He closed his eyes. "I'm sorry." There was silence on the line. Heavy, aching silence. Then she whispered, "I used to think you were cruel, but you're just lost." The call ended. He stood there, alone, the city lights shimmering across the dark water. For the first time, Grayson Pierce, the man who controlled everything, realized he couldn't control a single thing anymore. Back at the penthouse, Naomi waited with the news he didn't want to hear. "They're calling an emergency meeting tomorrow," she said. "Carter has the votes. You're out." He nodded, almost peaceful. "Then let him have the throne. Let him choke on it." Naomi hesitated, then added quietly, "There's something else. Lila's missing." His head snapped up. "What do you mean, missing?" "She didn't show up for work. Her apartment's empty. No one's seen her since last night." The room went still. He looked toward the window, the city glowing far below. "Find her," he said. His voice was low, cold, unshakable. "Before they do." Morning came with sirens. The sky over Manhattan was gray and swollen, the kind of sky that warns you something is about to break. Pierce Tower was surrounded. Dozens of black SUVs lined the street, agents flooding the marble lobby. The SEC raid had begun. Reporters were everywhere, shouting questions, cameras flashing like lightning. On the 42nd floor, Grayson stood at his office window, watching everything he'd built fall apart. Naomi burst in, a folder clutched to her chest. "They have warrants," she said breathlessly. "Carter tipped them off. He gave them the internal accounts." Grayson didn't move. His voice was hollow. "Let them look. Maybe they'll finally see who's really dirty." But then she said the one thing that made him turn. "They're asking about her. Lila Moreno. They think she helped you hide money offshore." His jaw tightened. "That's impossible." Naomi lowered her voice. "They have her signature on a transfer document." He froze. "That's forged." "I know," she said. "But they don't." Somewhere across the city, Lila was sitting on a bus bound for nowhere. Her hair tucked under a cap, her eyes hidden behind sunglasses, her hands gripping a small leather bag that carried the truth, the file she had taken from Grayson's office. Inside it was everything. Her father's old letters, Pierce Global's cover-ups, payment records signed by people who were supposed to be untouchable. She wanted to throw it all away, burn it, forget it existed, but she couldn't. Because buried inside those pages was her father's voice, the voice that had been silenced for 16 years. The bus jolted to a stop and her phone buzzed. No caller ID. She hesitated, then answered. "You shouldn't have run," Grayson said. His voice was low, rough, different. Her throat tightened. "You think I had a choice? They're coming for you. Carter forged documents in your name." She laughed bitterly. "Of course he did. That's what people like you do. Bury the innocent." "Lila, don't call me again," she whispered. but her voice shook. Before she could hang up, he said something that made her freeze. "Your father didn't die in an accident. He was run off the road." The silence after that was endless. "What did you say?" she whispered. "I found the report this morning. The car's brake line was cut." She clutched the phone tighter. "Who?" He hesitated. "My father's signature is on the insurance payout, but Carter handled the file." The line went dead. Rain began to fall, heavy and cold. The bus rolled past the edge of the city, headlights glowing against the storm. Lila pressed her forehead to the window, her breath fogging the glass. She wasn't sure what scared her more, the truth or the man who was still trying to protect her from it. Back at Pierce Tower, the agents tore through files and servers. Grayson's desk was overturned, his computer seized. Carter watched from the doorway, pretending concern. "I told you this would happen," Carter said smoothly. "You tied yourself to that girl, and she's going to take you down." Grayson stepped closer, his eyes like steel. "You think I don't know what you did?" Carter smiled faintly. "Proof, Grayson. Always proof." Outside, thunder rolled, shaking the glass walls. Naomi entered, drenched from the rain. "They're freezing the accounts," she said. "You need to leave now." "I'm not leaving," he said. "You don't have a choice." He turned to her, calm, certain. "Find her, Naomi. Bring her to me." Hours later, the city lost power for a moment, a flash of darkness that made every light blink out. When the backup generators hummed to life, the penthouse was empty. Grayson was gone. Somewhere in the storm, he was driving toward the only place that mattered now, her. The rain beat harder, thunder screaming across the skyline as he gripped the steering wheel, headlights cutting through the chaos. He had destroyed his empire, lost his name, and maybe his soul. But for the first time, he knew what he was fighting for. When he found her standing in the rain outside the old pier, soaked, trembling, holding that worn leather bag, he stopped the car and stepped out without a word. She turned, eyes wide. "You shouldn't be here." "Neither should you," he said. "But here we are." They stared at each other, lightning flashing between them, the storm drowning everything else. Then, slowly, she dropped the bag, took a step forward and whispered, "That kiss you used to ruin me. You can't take it back." He looked at her, rain sliding down his face, voice breaking for the first time. "I don't want to." And before she could reply, he pulled her into him, the storm roaring around them, the city watching, the truth between them heavier than ever. Morning crept in like an unwanted guest. The storm had passed, but the city didn't feel clean. It felt shaken, hollow. In the gray light, the front page of every newspaper carried the same headline: "Pierce Empire Collapses. Secret Mistress at the Center of Scandal." Lila stared at the paper from the diner window. The photo underneath was of her, soaked in rain, eyes red, clutching that leather bag like it held the world. Someone had followed them. Someone had been watching even through the storm. She pushed the paper away and sipped the last of her cold coffee. The waitress gave her a sympathetic smile but didn't ask questions. That was the thing about New York. It didn't care who you were. It just kept moving. Her phone buzzed again. No name. Just a video link. She shouldn't have opened it, but curiosity was stronger than fear. On the screen was Sloane Whitaker, standing at a podium, surrounded by microphones and reporters. Her makeup perfect, her tone controlled. "It breaks my heart to share this," Sloane said, "but Grayson Pierce has been deceiving the board and the public for years. He forged documents, moved company money into personal accounts, and manipulated a woman named Lila Moreno to hide his crimes. She's now fled the city with millions in stolen funds." Lila felt her stomach twist. "She's lying," she whispered to herself, but her hands were trembling. In the background of the press conference, Carter Blake stood smiling faintly, his eyes on the cameras. "We'll ensure justice," he said, stepping beside Sloane. "The company deserves better leadership." Lila closed the video and looked around the diner. but no one even noticed her. To them, she was just another headline brought to life. Then her phone rang again. This time it was Naomi. "Lila, where are you?" "Does it matter? I'm already the villain in their story." "Listen to me," Naomi said urgently. "Sloane isn't just covering Grayson's downfall, she's erasing him. And she's using your name to do it." "I have proof," Lila whispered. "The file." "Then you're not safe," Naomi said. "Meet me at Pier 19. Bring everything." Lila left the diner, keeping her head low. Outside, the streets buzzed with news vans and flashing screens replaying the same footage. Her name kept echoing in every broadcast like a curse. She walked faster. Across town, Grayson sat in the shadows of a warehouse on the east side. The empire he'd spent a lifetime building was gone. Frozen accounts, seized properties, his name dragged through every network. He'd become the monster they wanted him to be. Naomi's message reached him minutes after she called Lila. Pier 19. Bring no one. He knew what that meant. A setup. The wind whipped across the docks that night. Fog rolled in from the river, swallowing the sound of the city. Lila stood beneath the broken lamppost, clutching the bag to her chest. Her heart wouldn't slow down. She kept checking her phone. No messages, no calls. Then she heard footsteps. She turned, relief washing through her. Naomi! But it wasn't Naomi. Carter Blake stepped out of the fog, his coat collar up, his smile cold. "You shouldn't have come here alone, Lila." Her pulse spiked. "Where's Naomi?" "She's not coming," he said quietly. "She got delayed." He stepped closer. "You were never supposed to find those files. Your father's death was an accident, until you made it more than that." Her voice shook. "You killed him." He tilted his head. "No, but I paid the man who did." Her breath hitched. She took a step back, clutching the bag tighter. "You can't hide this anymore." He smirked. "Who's going to believe you? The maid who slept with her boss?" Before he could move closer, a sound broke through the fog, the growl of an engine. Headlights cut through the mist. Grayson's car screeched to a stop at the edge of the pier. Carter turned, face twisting. "You just don't know when to stay dead, do you?" Grayson stepped out, soaked in rain and fury. "I warned you," he said. "You came after me, but you touched her." Carter laughed. "She was collateral damage. So was your father. So are you." Lila didn't even see it happen. One flash, one gunshot, the sound echoing off the steel walls. Grayson lunged, knocking Carter to the ground. The gun slid across the pier, landing near Lila's feet. "Run!" Grayson shouted. She grabbed the bag and turned toward the dock, but Carter's voice stopped her cold. "If you leave now, you'll never know the truth." The words froze her in place. In the chaos, sirens in the distance, waves slamming against the shore, she turned back and met Grayson's eyes. "What truth?" she shouted. He hesitated. For once, even he didn't seem sure what was real anymore. Carter's voice came again, blood on his lips, smiling through the pain. "Ask him who signed the order that killed your father." The world tilted. Grayson's silence said everything. Lila's knees buckled, and the sound of police sirens filled the air as she whispered, "It was you." Red and blue lights sliced through the fog. The pier glowed like a crime scene, because that's what it was. Officers shouted, radios cracked, and camera flashes began again. Manhattan didn't sleep for scandals like this. Carter Blake was on the ground, handcuffed, blood on his shirt, but a smirk on his face. Grayson stood a few feet away, silent, soaked, staring at nothing. Lila couldn't move. The air between them was too heavy for words. One officer approached her. "Miss, we need your statement." Her voice was a whisper. "He killed my father." The officer glanced at Grayson, then back at her. "The man in custody?" She looked at Grayson again, his face cold, unreadable. "No," she said finally. "Not him." Hours later, at the precinct, she sat under the buzzing fluorescent lights. Her hands trembled as she filled out forms, but her mind wasn't in the room. It was back on the pier. On the moment Carter's words shattered everything. Ask him who signed the order that killed your father. When she finally looked up, Naomi Chen was standing there. They're releasing you, Naomi said quietly. No charges. What about him? Lila asked. Naomi hesitated. Grayson's being held for questioning. They think he ordered the hit 16 years ago. Lila's chest tightened. And did he? Naomi didn't answer. Outside, dawn was breaking over the skyline. Lila wrapped her coat tighter, feeling smaller than she ever had. A car pulled up. Naomi opened the door. Get in. They drove in silence for a long time. Finally, Naomi said, You need to know something. Grayson didn't sign that order. Lila turned. Then who did? Naomi's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Sloan. The name hit her like ice. Naomi nodded. Sloan's family owned the company back then. Grayson's father covered for her because she was a Whitaker. The Pierce fortune depended on that alliance. They buried your father's death to keep their empire clean. Lila's eyes stung. And now they're framing him to finish the job. Exactly, Naomi said. Carter was her weapon. Grayson was the scapegoat. The car pulled into a dim garage beneath an old warehouse. Inside, screens flickered with live feeds, news reports, social media clips, stock updates. Grayson's face filled every channel. Pierce arrested for conspiracy. Naomi grabbed a hard drive from a locker and handed it to Lila. This is everything. The emails, the bank records, the calls between Sloan and Carter. It's the proof you need. Why give this to me? Because he trusted you, Naomi said, even when he shouldn't have trusted anyone. Before Lila could respond, footsteps echoed behind them. She turned and froze. Grayson stood there, bruised and exhausted, his shirt still stained from the pier. They let me out, he said. Lack of evidence. Lila's voice shook. You knew she was involved. He nodded slowly. I suspected, but I needed her to make her move. Naomi looked between them, tense. Then it's time to end this. We take the evidence public. Grayson shook his head. No, if we do that now, she'll destroy you first. He walked closer, eyes on Lila. You still have that file, your father's file. She nodded. Then we use it. She frowned. How? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. We let her think I'm giving it to her, that I'm surrendering. She'll come for it herself. Lila stared at him, uncertain. And what happens when she does? He smiled faintly. That's when the game ends, Naomi interrupted, whispering urgently. You're risking everything. He didn't look away from Lila. I already lost everything. I'm just taking back the truth. That night, as the city glittered far below, Lila watched Grayson stand by the window of the safe house. He looked smaller somehow, not the untouchable billionaire anymore, just a man stripped bare by his own sins. You still think you can fix this? She asked quietly. He turned to her, tired but sure. No, but maybe I can fix what my father broke. She looked down at the flash drive in her hand, the proof, the past, the poison, the choice. The rain returned that night, soft but relentless, as if the city itself couldn't stop washing away the truth. Lila sat alone in the safe house, the hard drive flickering on the table in front of her. On the screen, a folder labeled Project Atlas blinked like a heartbeat. Inside were the names, the payments, and the orders, everything her father had died trying to reveal. Naomi paced the room. Once this goes public, it's over. The Whitakers, Carter's allies, the board, they'll fall. And so will he, Lila whispered. Naomi stopped. What do you mean? If I upload this, Grayson's name is on half of it. He'll lose what little he has left. Naomi looked at her carefully. Then maybe you have to decide what's more important, justice or mercy. The door creaked open, and Grayson stepped in. His shirt was still damp from the rain, his eyes hollow but calm. He didn't look like a billionaire anymore. He looked like a man stripped of armor. You shouldn't be here, she said quietly. I came for the truth, he replied. He glanced at the screen, then back at her. You found it. She nodded. It's all here. What they did to my father. What they made your family hide. He exhaled slowly. Then you know what it will cost. Yes, she said, meeting his eyes. You. For a moment neither spoke. The hum of the computer filled the silence. Then he walked closer, stopping just in front of her. My father signed that cover-up. I didn't stop it. That makes me guilty enough. You were a child, she said bitterly. I was a Pierce, he said. That's worse. Her hands shook as she held the flash drive. I could end this tonight. I could clear my father's name, destroy hers, destroy you, and walk away free. He nodded. Then do it. She blinked. You're not going to stop me. He smiled faintly. You're the only one who deserves to choose how this ends. Naomi's phone buzzed, breaking the silence. She glanced at the screen and her face went pale. They're coming. Sloane's people. I don't know how, but they tracked us. Grayson turned to Lila, voice steady. You have 1 minute. Upload it or destroy it. She stared at the computer, the progress bar glowing like a loaded weapon. Her father's voice echoed in her head. Truth always costs something. The glass windows shook as cars pulled up outside. Headlights cut through the darkness. Naomi pulled her gun from her coat. They're not here to negotiate. Grayson stepped in front of Lila. You stay behind me. She swallowed hard. You don't have to protect me. Yes, he said softly. I do. Because this time, I'm choosing the right side. The door burst open. Sloane Whitaker entered first, her designer heels silent against the concrete floor. Behind her, 2 armed men. Her smile was sharp enough to draw blood. So this is where the fairy tale ends, she said. Lila's fingers hovered over the keyboard. It ends when the truth comes out. Sloane tilted her head. You think anyone will believe a maid over me? The public loves money, not morality. Grayson stepped forward. Then maybe they'll believe me. Sloane's eyes flicked to him, cold amusement in her voice. You won't survive it. Maybe that's the point. She drew a gun from her bag and aimed it at him. You've embarrassed my family enough. Lila shouted, Stop! But Sloane never got to fire. Naomi did. The gunshot echoed once, then silence. Sloane crumpled, eyes wide in disbelief. The guards fled. Lila's breath came in sharp bursts. She's alive, Naomi said, checking her pulse. But it's over. Upload it. Lila's hand hovered over the mouse. Grayson's gaze met hers. Do it, he said quietly. Your father deserves peace. Her eyes filled with tears as she clicked the final key. The file began to upload. The progress bar moved slow, agonizingly slow, until the words appeared. Upload complete. Outside, sirens grew closer. Naomi grabbed her bag. We have to go. Grayson turned to Lila. You did it. She shook her head. We did it. He smiled faintly. You don't owe me forgiveness. Maybe not, she whispered. But I can't hate the man who gave me back the truth. The police lights painted the room blue as they led Sloane away. Naomi slipped out through the back. Grayson and Lila stood at the window, the city flickering below, reborn in chaos and light. He looked at her one last time. When this is over, walk away. Start clean. And you? He smiled, tired but sincere. I'll rebuild, this time without lies. She reached for his hand, but he stepped back, the weight of everything between them too heavy to cross. Morning came with light soft enough to hurt. The storm had finally cleared, and New York felt slower, like the city itself was catching its breath. The news broke before sunrise. Every headline, every broadcast, every corner screen repeated the same words. Pierce Whitaker scandal exposed. Corporate cover-up linked to death of former employee. The truth was out. Sloane Whitaker's empire crumbled within hours. Carter's secret account surfaced, and his name joined hers on the indictment. The internet that once hunted Lila now turned on them. Grayson Pierce was cleared of conspiracy, but not of consequence. His board dissolved. The company bearing his name went up for sale. The world saw a man stripped of wealth and power, but those who looked closer saw something else, a man who finally looked human. Lila sat on the same park bench where she used to wait for buses to cleaning jobs. A small newspaper rested on her lap. Her photo was there again, but this time not with scandal. The headline read, "Housekeeper Who Exposed the Billionaire." A strange peace settled over her. For the first time, her name didn't sound like a stain. Footsteps approached. She didn't look up right away. She already knew the sound. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. Grayson smiled faintly. "You've said that before." He sat beside her. No suit this time, just a gray coat, worn at the edges, the kind of clothing that didn't belong to a billionaire anymore. "I thought you left," she said. "I did," he replied. But leaving didn't feel like living. They sat quietly as the wind moved through the trees. The world around them went on. Joggers, taxis, distant laughter. Life that didn't care about empires or secrets. She looked at him. "So, what now?" He shrugged. "I start over. Smaller company. No board, no lies. And you think that'll make things right?" He looked at her then, not with arrogance, not with regret, just truth. "No, but it's a start." She smiled, a small, tired smile. "My father would have liked you like this, broke, humble, human." He laughed quietly. "Then maybe there's hope for me yet." Silence again, the kind that feels full, not empty. Finally, she said, "That kiss. You know, the first one. It ruined my life." He nodded. "Mine too." She turned to him, eyes soft. "But the second one?" He met her gaze, the city noise fading behind them. "That one saved it." The air between them felt different now, not like fire, not like tension, but like peace. He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. Down the street, a street performer began to sing, something quiet and hopeful. For once, Lila didn't feel invisible. She looked at the skyline, the same skyline that had once made her feel small, and whispered, "He kissed me to ruin a lie, but somehow the lie turned into something real." Grayson smiled. Maybe that's what truth really is, what survives the lies. They sat there, hand in hand, as the city moved on without them. Two people who had lost everything except the one thing neither expected to find. And as the camera of the world panned out, the streets alive, the sunlight breaking through, her voice lingered, soft, final. Sometimes love doesn't begin with honesty. Sometimes it begins with the lie that teaches you what truth really costs. If you made it here, tell me, was it worth it? Where are you watching from right now? And if you felt that ending, subscribe, because stories like this, they don't really end. They just wait for the next heartbeat to begin.